Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Himes here, joined by my friend, as always, Bob Stewart. Well, I say as always, Bob. You're sometimes on vacation, but you're here today at least.
Well, you're lucky. You're lucky, my friend. Just today. I've got my next trip planned, so it won't be too long before I dip out on you.
Bob, you're wearing some Win, Make, Give stuff. And I love that you're wearing the Win, Make, Give stuff because the store is officially open.
What?
That's right. You know, because you went to store.winmakegive.com and found yourself a hat and a shirt and a cup to proudly support your Win, Make, Give love.
I got to keep the caffeine flowing, Chad. I got to keep the caffeine flowing.
Excellent. All right. Well, Bob, it's not just you and I talking about that today. Sometimes we get off on some interesting topics, but today we got a guy who's going to bring some extremely interesting topics from an altitude perspective, shall we say, on leadership. And you know me, Bob, I don't want to introduce our person and read some bio that someone sends me. I want to bring to our Win, Make, Give audience Pete Zaccagnino, who's going to introduce himself to each and every one of you and let you know who he is and what he's going to be bringing to today's call. So Pete, welcome to Win, Make, Give.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. I love the podcast, by the way. You guys are hilarious and just awesome topics.
He's talking to me, Chad. He's talking to me. So.
Oh, yeah, that was absolutely directed to you, I'm sure, Bob. I think I actually read a Facebook post. Somebody actually gave you credit for being the funny one. I'm the on point and serious one here, but someone has to keep us moving forward.
That's right.
Pete, do me a favor. I could read about you for hours here with the information I have about you and the research we've done on you. Introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them who you are and what you want them to know about this guy that's about to share with them.
Sure. Pete Zaccagnino, and I am just an adventurer that is living a legit dream, fortunately and luckily. So all things aviation, designer of aircraft, test pilot, race pilot, corporate pilot, been around the world a bunch, been to some really bizarre places, and pursued an actual adventure as opposed to just kind of talking about it, I think. And I've been supported. Luckily, I've been supported to go pursue this type of stuff. And it's been an awesome ride so far. And then I thought, hey, I better start writing some books. So in 100 years, somebody's going to remember these stories. So I did.
Excellent. And we're going to get to the book and we'll give you a plug. Book title for everybody out there?
First book is Relevant. And the newest release is The New Cold War.
Ooh, all right.
Hold on real quick. These books are like historical fiction or what? Is that what you would call them? Or?
Sure, Bob. The short answer is they're military spy thrillers. It's about
that's like my favorite genre, Pete, by the way. If you were to look on my, man, I love it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really good news. And I'm excited. And I'll make sure I get copies in both your hands. I've really enjoyed the process. It's very out of my box for me. And I've absolutely just loved it. And hence the second book. And the third book's underway. I'm about halfway through the third book, the writing of the third book right now.
How much of the books, now that we've dove into this and I'm going to look forward to reading them, I know Bob will too. It's the only way we can sometimes get Bob to read. How much of the information,
Pete? I need a good story.
How much of the information in the book, Pete, is based on historic, as Bob was saying, and based on maybe some of your experiences that you've worked into these books?
Sure. The books are a combination of historical facts and information I've gathered, interviews with some serious people, and some of my experiences in these strange places. I don't know how to put them and be politically correct.
Okay, we'll leave it at strange places. Although I got to ask, what's the strangest that you politically correctly can say? What's the strangest place you've been to?
Strangest?
You keep using that word, so I have to ask.
I don't look.
Maybe
I think as Americans, say that again.
Maybe Bangalore. That was a unique.
That just sounds like a planet in some movie.
Yeah, no, it's cool because you can go on these trains and you're like 6 people deep hanging on these trains going from A to B, and they do it all the time. It's not like
in India. Is Bangalore in India?
Bangladesh. Yeah,
Bangladesh.
That's awesome.
As Americans, I think we're sheltered in many ways from a lot of the. I remember my family took a trip to Southeast Asia, and we went to Bangkok, and when I was like 19 years old, and Man, Pete, like you say, it was different, right? It was just like, wow, people live so much different than we do. And it makes you very thankful for the fortune that we have, I think, here in the US.
Yeah, I think so. Part of the book's point was to just share some history and get people at least curious and go look into things. I mean, hey, don't believe anything you read, right? But maybe they'll go and look into some of these topics for themselves and come up with some answers, come up with some curiosity, which I think needs to be fostered. And not just, hey, I saw this blip online and it must be true. Let's dive into it and find out the answer a little bit more.
All right. Now, Pete, we're going to bring value, folks. We promise. Right now, Bob and I are just geeking out a little bit here, right? Pete is an aviation Hall of Famer, 4 times air racing gold champion. Bob, this guy has flown a lot. And one of the things we were learning about him was that he's been to almost every country.
Is this true, Pete? You have one country.
Made you have a question.
Well, you have one. I read that you've been to every country except Madagascar. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's nothing against Madagascar. In fact, a good friend of mine, Corey, and I were supposed to go there, and the engine quit on the airplane we were taking to go to Madagascar. And so
in my head, I'm like, wouldn't you just go out of your way now, Pete? Like, do you feel like you have to get to Madagascar as fast as you can, or?
Well, I think it's kind of cool to have something hanging out there that I got to get to. I kind of dig that a little bit. And so, yeah, I want to do it and check off the box, but I don't want to just check off the box. If I'm going to go to Madagascar, I got to do it properly. Maybe some type of adventure or jungle.
Given the fact that it's the last one on the list.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated, Pete, by the idea that like you set out and are like living like your dream. Right? Or like obviously you're passionate about flying, right? And have kind of spanned. And you said you built airplanes, you've designed and engineered airplanes, so like the whole gamut of flight you've participated in. But this idea that you've found a career out of a passion. Did this happen accidentally? Did you set out as a young man to do this? Like, give us some help us understand how this happens for somebody. I'm fascinated by it.
As far as I can remember, I want to design, build, and fly airplanes. And I don't have an event to point to as a kid and say, oh, it was this air show I went to or this person I met. It was just in my DNA. I bled airplanes, came out of my veins. And and here I am. And I just stayed on the path. It wasn't always pain-free, I can assure you of that. There's been some interesting moments in my career, but all in all, I think it's been phenomenal. I'm very blessed.
So, Pete, you've had an amazing career, we'll call it. As Bob and you were saying, with going to every country other than one, with being a race champion, a fighter, all these wonderful, wonderful things that you've done. And you were just saying there wasn't one moment that made it kind of happen. When did you look up and kind of say, whoa, now there's this and now there's that this is becoming reality. Maybe I can get to every country in the world, or maybe I can, earn myself a spot in the Hall of Fame, which it's got to put you in a very small percentage of people that are out there. When along the way did these things start to become realistic goals for you to achieve, or were they all just accidental things you looked up one day and went, oh, look, I'm in the Hall of Fame and I've been to all the countries except for one?
It was I'll tell you the exact moment when I was realizing, hey, it's kind of working. I think that's the question you're asking, is like, when did I kind of know? I was with another pilot, and it was just luck. I was able to take my mom on this trip, and we're just having dinner at the end of the trip. And this is several years ago. And great guy, Mark, great pilot. And my mom, we're all sitting there at dinner. And Mark said to my mom, you must be really proud of Pete. And my mom is, my best fan, right? And
go moms.
Mark, yeah. And, Mark said, he's the Renaissance of aviation. I don't know if you know that, and my mom's name is Shirley. And he said, Shirl, he's the Renaissance in aviation. He's the guy. And he said, he's the only person I've flown with in an airplane, and telling all these stories, he went out and did them. And it really hit home. I mean, it was like a huge compliment he gave me. He was like, you did the stuff you said you were going to do. And I was just pursuing stuff. It wasn't like I had this list and I was checking them off. I was just pursuing different things and seeing what the adventure turned into. And he kind of put it together in a summary comment. It was a pretty cool moment, I have to say.
Sounds like the title of a book.
Pete, were there ever times like along this journey as you were trying things that where you just were like, you know what, this isn't going to work? Like, was there ever that, or did it always work? I guess I would assume at some point you had come up against, I don't know, burnout or, something you were trying that wasn't working, or I don't know, but was there ever a time when you kind of had to dig deep?
Yeah, there's been times where you're just banging your head against the wall and like, oh no, you don't fit the mold of people that get to do this. And I was like, well, why? I'm big on metaphysics, asking why. And so I said to those people that said no, I said, well, why? Well, because of this. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go figure that out, and I'll check off that prerequisite. And then I would come back. Well, no, you still can't because of this. I kind of just stayed at it. And there was definitely times where I'm sitting there going, why am I so eager to pursue this test flying opportunity or whatever it may have been? And you can get down on yourself, but then you're just like, well, wait a minute, that's not in my DNA. And you got to kind of shake it off a little bit. It's really true. And you just got to look into yourself deeply and say, no, this is worth it. This is going to have a impact on those around me in a positive way. It's going to impact the culture I'm around in a positive way. And it's a give back opportunity to continue pursuing it. So that's how I've kind of found that strength, I guess.
Chad, I'm Pete. There's things on your resume. I mean, you have a pretty impressive resume. That are, well, one that stands out to me is being a committee member on the Ntsb accident investigation. Like, so you what does that job entail? I mean, this is like Ntsb, National Transportation Safety Board. Is that what that stands for? But I mean, this is like if a plane goes down anywhere in the United States, this is the group that investigates that. Is that right?
Yeah. So what it means is I'm not with the Ntsb. When there's accidents in certain type of planes, I may assist them from the industry perspective.
Okay.
So I've been invited to an accident for a certain type of airplane because I have knowledge about that plane or a lot of test experience in that plane to give them insight. But I'm not working for them, and I'm not a part of their organization, but I am a contributor to the accident investigation. Does that kind of make sense, Bob?
Yeah. So you guys play like an advisory board.
Yeah, like
Ntsb on a particular aircraft that you're super knowledgeable of.
Exactly. And there's a few planes that I've assisted them with, a few aircraft types, and on several different accidents. And it's just
are those things, Pete, like some finding comes out of that investigation and ultimately informs like, rules or regulations around that aircraft in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's times where very productive things happen as a result of the study, and the accident study can deliver fantastic, very accurate results. And we're lucky that we get to contribute onto the knowledge side of that specific aircraft and help give them guidance as to what may have been the situation. And if we do find a conclusion, say in a fuel system that was this 1 in 10,000 chance, we can correct it for the remainder of the fleet, and prevent an accident.
That must be, rewarding, right? Like to come to these findings that says, man, we're going to save somebody's life or many somebody's lives. And it might be 10 years from now when that problem would crop up again, but we're going to eliminate it.
Yeah. But I think more importantly, it's kind of in my philosophy. It's really just pursuing the excellence for the sake of the excellence. And you want that accident investigation to be as good as it can possibly be for the right reason. And that reason is to be accurate and excellent, not to find a foregone conclusion. And that's kind of, for me, I don't need a fancy paint job on a race plane, but I need a fast airplane. And that's what's important, is just pursuing the excellence, not the paint job, right? Because that's just the glamorous part. But
where does that come from? What is that pursuit of excellence? Is that like something your parents were beating into your head when you were a little kid, or?
Boy, I don't have a good answer for that.
You just like stuff excellent. That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, but it's not compulsive. I don't know. I think it's just it's a little self-doubt at times, actually, to get a little introspective. It's like, did I do it right? And aviation is it's such accountability, and I like that. It's air racing is super accountability, like on steroids, because if you screw it up, the consequences are huge.
I was reading something when I was checking you out, that was from like a 2015 race, and it might have been when you run the Reno Air races in 2015 that you had. There are actual like maximum speeds you can fly. Is that right? So really it comes down to like how well am I navigating and turning that plane, not necessarily just how fast can that plane go. Is that right?
Yeah, they have a course speed limit. Back then it was 515.
Yeah.
And now that it's been upped to 525, and it's for course safety. And you have to fly your line very accurately and consistently is the super important side. You have to be.
Wait a minute, but I got a note here that you actually hold the record for the fastest qualifying lap at 529 miles per hour.
You don't tell anybody. Is anybody listening right now?
All right, do you still hold that record?
Yeah, I do.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I like to go fast. But, one of the things I got to say is I think of all the jobs in the world. I mean, I don't know that there's a job I wouldn't be willing to attempt, except test pilot. That just sounds like you're asking for trouble. Talk to me about being a test pilot. I mean, how can you do that where you're getting in a plane to test it?
Well, this is kind of back to that big picture philosophy. I mean, so you're accountable for this plane. So that means on the ground, before you get in that plane and fly, you have to go through a procedure and a process that can take days and weeks and months, right? Some are faster than others, just depends on the project. And then you go through a safety review board where it's on you to be accurate. And if you're not accurate, boy, it's going to show up in a bad way. So that very high level accountability and being accurate with your assessment before you put that plane into the air for the first time, that's talk about like really betting on yourself. It goes with my philosophy about it. And it's the science of it, the academics of it, and the study of the machine and proving it all in one moment when you go out on that first flight. And I think it's the culmination of several areas and pursuits all in one moment.
Interesting. So it almost sounds, Pete, like you like flying planes that nobody else has been up in before.
I do. I like the whole process and leading
20,
that charge.
23 prototype planes you've flown in.
Yeah, that's correct. At least might be more than that by now, but yeah.
That's, man, Chad, I'm with you, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna let Pete go up first and check it out and make sure.
I have enough trouble being a passenger on some of these planes. Ben and I were on one of those little puddle jumper planes once, and the guy actually opened the door to adjust something in the middle of the flight. And I was like, no, you're not supposed to open doors on airplanes. Thank you very much. All right. Pete, you said a word a little while ago that sung to my heart. And some of the audience members might have heard it and said, oh, Chad loved hearing that. And you said the word accountability. Yeah. So talk to our audience about that. Let's give some lessons. Let's give some value to this other than just a freaking good old time we're having with Pete, learning all this stuff. Talk to us about accountability from the perspective that you have found it in.
Sure. I mean, the examples for me are pretty simple. Air racing, I have a contract with the other race pilots because if I'm not accountable for my actions with them, it's going to be a significant event, catastrophic, fatal, really bad things. And so I'm accountable to them. It's very measurable. In flight test, if I'm not doing my job effectively, the accountability, again, is of serious consequences, plus the responsibility that aircraft manufacturer has placed on me. No matter how big or small that company is, they've bet a lot on me to keep their asset as safe as possible and bring it back to the earth so they're not losing gajillions of dollars. So the accountability aspect is, if you make a mistake, you got to own it and say, hey, I'm raising my hand. I screwed up here, so that others don't have a mistake or subsequent mistakes because you weren't being accountable to that. And I think it's one of the most important, all-encompassing attributes you can have as a responsible citizen of the world. And that's accountability, because it's honor, it's loyalty, it's knowing your craft, whatever it is. If you're a chef, if you're a pen maker, it doesn't matter. You still need to know that craft, whatever it is. with some with higher consequences, but you're still accountable. And you still have to say, yeah, that was mine. I own it. I did a great job. That was my screw up, and let's learn from it and let's fix it. It's to me, it summarizes everything important in one word: accountability.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Where do you see it showing up in your life outside of, you're so accountable in your industry, you're so accountable in flight. Where do you see that show up outside of a cockpit?
Running a business, you're accountable to your staff because I don't see them as working for me. I see them as that we work together, and being good for them so that they can do their job well and succeed in their specific task and role within the business. I think that's a huge responsibility as the president of the business, the CEO of the business, is ensuring you are leading that business and being accountable to that staff. And that's why I say we work together, because I need their help to do the job I do so that they can do their job effectively. So I'm accountable to them. And then your relationship, I mean, let's say it, you guys are accountable to each other, or you don't have a successful podcast. And that says a lot that, your banter, your intelligence, you're accountable to each other and to your audience. I mean, it's huge. Talk about a responsibility for you guys. It's the same thing, right? You're accountable to your audience. And I
guess you got the bribe we sent over, Bob, after he sent
Is that check in the mail? But and those relationship accountabilities, I think, are really important. My race team, they're all volunteers. They spend their own money to support the racing because we don't make any money in it. And it's a huge responsibility, and one that weighs on me is being successful to them, meaning don't go die. That's number one. Because that would be awful for them to spectate, right? Accountability to the fan, don't go die, same thing. But that's still a personal accountability. And then, winning, hey, you're not there to lose, let's be honest. And so taking second place at the last championship, that stung, I got to tell you, that stung. Not because we didn't win, but because I wasn't doing what I said I would do to get to first place for my team. And for me, I let them down a little bit, some amount.
Okay.
What drew you to philanthropy? Like you participated in the Wounded Warriors, and you've got some orphanages in some kind of remote locations around the world. What in your upbringing, or what in your career kind of made you say, man, I want to start giving back to people?
I was raised by my mom, single mom, my brother and I. And, my mom gave us everything to open doors for us. And, we grew up pretty poor, full on, like open the oven door in the wintertime to warm the house poor. And, my mom was just did anything she could to open doorways for us. And I think there's a lot of people in this world, if we open the doors for them, it's very different than a handout. We're just giving them opportunity, and we're giving them a vehicle to improve their situation. And I learned that from my mother for sure. And so did my brother. And I have the wherewithal. I can put together some people with their, corporate jets and private jets and do a relief mission down to Central America. I mean, it's pretty awesome stuff. And, it's no formal organization. We just do it. We know what they need, and we make it happen. And my friend Dennis, he spearheaded some of that effort. And it shouldn't, in my opinion, and it's not like rewarding. It is our onus. We have to do that. And how we do that, though, is the critical difference. Don't do it out of obligation. Don't do it out of guilt. Do it because we are good humans. And this is what we should do, is open a pathway of success for those people that don't have a pathway. Create that pathway for them, as opposed to just giving them, food or something like that.
Hang on, Bob, before you ask your follow-up, because it's a perfect time for me to throw this in right here. Right during season 2 of the Win, Make, Give podcast, we're really living up to that give name, Pete, and we're making donations with every episode to charitable organizations that our audience has selected. We ask in our Facebook group every now and then for some charitable organizations, and of course, on our interviews, we're always asking our guests to pick one. So I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to make a charitable donation on behalf of Win, Make, Give because you came to us today. What organization is it that we can support?
National Ability Center.
Tell us a little bit about them.
They're awesome. They're here in Park City, Utah, and they've done a great job. Someone needs help, they figure out how to help them and create that pathway. And they've done a superb job. They're not prejudiced about who needs help. It's just, hey, you need help. You lost a limb in battle. You have some deficiencies due to birth and genetics, whatever the reason is, they don't care and they help selflessly. And they are just awesome. Awesome group.
We'll be proud to make a donation to the National Ability Center in Utah. Bob, you had another question you were about to ask.
Well, I don't know. I'm Pete. I tell you, man, I am just absolutely fascinated by people that get to like live their dream. It's or just live something they're passionate about.
So,
are
Pete,
you passionate about writing books? Hold on. Are you passionate about writing books? Like is this like the next kind of phase of your career?
I don't know if it's a phase. I'm going to continue doing it. Yeah. I've outlined the next 5 books and I love it. I love doing it. So far, there's not a nickel in doing it. And you got to eat, You got
to keep the other business running.
Yeah, exactly. And, the aviation aspect, my bread and butter has allowed for this to happen for sure. But writing the books is rewarding. And again, if I can get people through the narrative in the book to just question a few things and look into a few things, or they get some education out of it subtly, that's a big win, even if it's only 5 or 10 people.
All right.
I love the idea of like driving people's curiosity. Like I'm a super curious individual. Chad, you are too, but that idea of like piquing up people's curiosity. I love that.
So if you want to check out Pete's books, you can go on Amazon and search them up. It's Relevant, a military thriller inspired by true events, and The New Cold War, defending democracy from Russia's secret tech weapon. That's book 1 and book 2. Bob and I are looking forward to reading them and maybe making an appearance in book 3 or 4, right? We'll talk about that. Now, Bob mentioned right there, Pete, he was mentioning, someone who's passionate and living their dreams and all that. You don't live dreams without having goals, without setting goals along the way. Talk to our audience about goal setting from your perspective. How do you set goals? How did you then accomplish goals? Let's talk a little bit about that and see what you can share.
Sure. I keep a notebook, and I use the notebook for everything from flying to recording my restaurants to writing goals and a path to my goals. So if my goal is to win my first race championship, 15, 17 years ago. Okay, so what do I need to do? How am I going to do that? So I create a list under my goal. In this example, I'm going to win my gold championship in air racing. And then I list, what do I need? I need an aircraft. I need a team. I need to be able to blow up an engine and rebuild it. So that needs certain things. And then how do I get to each of those tasks, and who do I need associated with me so that I can get to that goal? And that's how I've treated every goal. And we're doing that right now on our aviation business, is the exact same thing. Here's the goal. How do I get there? Who do I need? What's the timeline? And then I measure it during the process. If I'm failing to meet that sub task or sub goal, I got to figure out a way to solve it and get back on track.
Here's what I hear, Chad. I hear write them down.
Yep.
Almost every successful person we've talked to ever that is accomplishing big goals has them written down.
Yep.
And then it almost sounds, Pete, we use a kind of a framework in our world called a GPS or a 1-3-5. That's like goal, priority, strategies, right? I mean, it's almost that kind of a flow. It's like, what are we trying to do? What are the priorities that are going to get us there? And then what are all these strategies, the pull, the parts, the whatevers that we need to make those priorities go?
I'll tell you what I hear as well in there, Bob. He's asking questions, right? Pete was saying it, right? It's like, okay, so how do I get this? What do I need? And who do I need around me? He's asking great questions, not just, okay, here's my goal and it's going to somehow fall from the sky and end up in my lap, which is how many people do it.
Yeah, that's a field of dreams and it doesn't work. And even today, I mean, not to be self-aggrandizing, but I'm taking notes on our discussion right now because there's a couple of things I'm learning, a couple of things I want to do after this, a couple of things I want to send to you guys. It's just writing it down so I don't lose it, don't forget it. That's all.
Okay,
how many of those?
Write it down.
I'm a notebook guy too. You can see, the people listening to the podcast can't see us, but Pete, you can see I got a notebook. I've got 2 more in my bag. How many notebooks a year are you kicking out of your brain there? I'm assuming it's a stack of them.
No, I mean, I have about 3 notebooks a year, and okay. I use a good sized notebook. And I'm doing about. I need
bigger notebooks, Pete. You got to recommend. My notebooks are feeling a little small right now. I'm kicking it.
Bob, we'll make a win, make, give notebook. We'll put it in the store for you to be able to get.
All right, awesome, love it.
All right, Pete, give me one more lesson that you want to share with our audience. Something Bob and I didn't bring up in our conversation as Bob geeked out over there, and as we jumped from the airplanes to the books and here and there. We talked about some accountability. We talked about goal setting. Give me one more thing that you really want to share with the Win, Make, Give audience. So when they turn this episode off, they're like, damn, that Pete guy was all over it.
Situational awareness.
Talk more about it. I love that term.
Okay. You got to know what's going on right now. And right now can be defined, the different ways to define right now, but knowing what went on in the past isn't going to help right now. It may shape it, but you've got to know what's happening right now. If you're in debt up your butt and you're draining money, you've got to be aware of that, not bury your head in the sand, come up with a solution. Sell your car, sell your house, whatever the solution is to get out of debt, better job, more work. I don't know, but that's an easy example. If you're stuck in your career and it's just not fulfilling for you, figure out if you can financially leave that career, but know you're aware, have awareness of your current situation always. And you should do a recap at the end of the day of your current situation. Did you meet your goals? No. Okay, I got to go back and figure out how. I got to ask someone to help me get my goals squared away, help me win my career. I got to ask people that have done it successfully to keep my situational awareness high and stay highly aware of your situation, whatever it is. And if you're not doing well with that, then ask yourself questions. Am I safe? Yes. Am I healthy? Yes. Well, not quite. I'm a little overweight. What can I do about that? And you ask yourself questions and answer them honestly.
Honestly, I mean, that's a big thing.
To improve your situational awareness. And if you do that just pragmatically, you cannot do anything but succeed. And it's not a quick fix. It's just a philosophy to carry forward day in and day out, and you're on a path of success, period. If you are self-aware with high situational awareness.
Love it. That's why I recap these episodes, folks. I'm bringing you some situational awareness. Here's what you just learned.
I mean, if you didn't ask that question, he wouldn't have given us that nice gold nugget out the door here.
Bob, I'm going to drop the mic on that then. Come on.
You should. I think no career do you have to be more situationally aware than a fighter pilot or a race pilot or a friggin' prototype demo.
Crash test pilot or test pilot. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you really live that philosophy, right? You've had to be that, Pete. But you're saying that we should all be that every day if we want to,
all the time,
a lot in life,
all the time. Yeah. We wouldn't get sick. We wouldn't have illness. Well, at least we would reduce it. There's so many things you can apply it to, Is this a good decision to have my 15th vodka tonight? Probably not. Right?
I could say 15th this year. Probably not. Still,
as I'm chewing on $100 candy bar right now, probably not the best decision I just made.
Bob, did you go trick or treating, or did you just steal that from your kids' candy?
I stole my kids' candy.
Yeah, there you go. That's Bob's version. All right. All right, Bob, on that, we're going to let Bob get out of here. Pete, we really appreciate you taking the time, sharing some amazing stories, tales, insights, and some books that, folks, you want to read something a little different than self-help again and again and again, go check out Pete's books on Amazon. We'll put a link to them in the show notes for you as well. Pete, if they want to get a hold of you after this, if they wanted to follow up, if they wanted to say, Pete, I want to know more other than just going to Amazon and buying the book, how do they contact Pete?
Email. Pete,
you willing to put that email out there for everybody then?
Yeah, why not? Pete at pazair.com.
Pete at
PAZAIR.com. Pazair.com.
There you go. Pazair.com. Folks, while you're on that internet thingy sending emails off, don't forget to visit our Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group/win-make-give, where we continue the conversations after the episodes, sharing your answers to your questions and sharing thoughts that come from each and every episode. We hope you'll join us there, and we hope you'll join us on our next episode. And until that time, do good,